we've got a fair amount of people in here, which is great. So I think it would be a good time to get started. So first of all, I just want to welcome everybody to the AMA today with JennyCo. I really appreciate all of you tuning in out of your busy days, and obviously really appreciate Jenny and Michael giving us their valuable time at a time in JennyCo's life, I imagine, where you're very busy. Um, just to kind of start us off with a bit of an introduction for anybody that doesn't know too much, JennyCo is going to be the world's first decentralized health exchange. It's a very innovative project that is pushing the boundaries of what's possible in terms of traditional business bridging with the blockchain, which is what we're seeing so often right now coming out of the Constellation ecosystem with the groundbreaking hypergraph network. I'm personally very bullish on your project and very excited to be speaking with you today. So thanks so much for taking the time to be here, and welcome to the DAG DeFi Discord server. I hope you're both doing well and ready to give us some nice information about what you guys are up to.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
That's great. The only constraint I have is I have a kind of a hard stop at 2:45. But other than that, Jenny can take over.
Yeah, no worries. So that's 40 minutes from now, roughly.
It is.
No worries. We'll get through it nice and quick. I just want to say, first of all, so everybody remembers and knows, we are going to be giving away 5 times whitelists for JennyCo's Genesis NFT collection. So make sure to stick around to the end of the AMA to be in the chance to win one of those valuable whitelists. So cool. So let's crack on. Now, if you guys don't mind, I generally like to just sort of start the AMAs to just sort of get a bit of an idea about you guys, because I really believe that companies are only as interesting and as good as the people that are running them, and they very often become an extension of the people that are in control and directing that company. So just really get a bit of information about you guys, your experience in the industry, sort of your knowledge on the crypto space, and how that kind of all sort of molded together to bring you where you are today in this position right now.
Great. Well, I'll kick it off. So I just want to say I completely agree with your perspective that companies are really a product of the people. Most companies, all they are is people and ideas. And so it comes down to the quality of both of those. And so in our case, I'm really proud of the team that we have here at JennyCo. But share a little bit about myself. I am an entrepreneur. I absolutely love looking at things that are newly developing, are not really clearly regulated or understood. So my history prior to getting into Web3 had been in the very nascent social media space, like very nascent, like we're talking like 2010 era, 2008, where there wasn't a lot of knowledge around it. Things were just kind of starting to happen. And I became a partner in an agency that eventually was acquired by Deloitte Digital. And then I became really fascinated with iPhone games, and I had an idea for a game. And so produced a game that was essentially like Cards Against Humanity, but used animated GIFs, and you could play with strangers. And so put that out there, and I made it onto a crazy TV show that Apple put on. That is a whole other story, just in how that whole experience went. But it was really great. They actually asked me to be a part of it as a female founder of an app. And so that was really cool. And around the same time, this was prior to recreational legalization of marijuana in most of the country. We had only had it legalized in one state. I got really interested in that industry from a medical perspective for myself personally. And then it really drove my curiosity around the whole industry in general, which was really gray matter. I mean, that was a complete Wild West. And I had a lot of fun there. I raised different cannabis funds, invested in a lot of companies, and got to really know the industry and see the needs of it from the inside out. And as a part of that, I actually met Dr. Nova through a mutual connection that was involved with one of my funds and also involved with his company. And so he introduced the two of us, and we started talking and realized that there were things for us to work on together. And this was about 5 years ago. So we started developing very novel genetic tests. Our first one was around cannabis and how it interacts with the human body, so that somebody could know how they would feel before they would try it. And that led us on a whole journey that actually led us here to where we are at this Web3 moment, and bringing, personal medical data and personal health information into a blockchain app-based solution. For myself, from a crypto standpoint, I got involved back in 2012, buying Bitcoin when it was
Wow.
a very interesting process. Like, I would go to a bank, I'd deposit cash into an account number, take a picture, email it to an email address, and then they'd let me know how much Bitcoin I had. So very, very long time ago. And my husband, Benjamin Diggles, is one of the co-founders of Constellations. So a lot of our conversations in the household revolve around crypto and Web3 type stuff.
That's awesome. That's good. That's a cool story. You seem like you're the sort of person that likes to get amongst it and really give it a go. So I love that. I've never heard of that gift game, but I like the sound of it. Is it still going?
It's not. No, we had a really good time building it. My team, we did
Yeah.
it for probably about 5 years, and
Yeah.
it was a side project in a way for a lot of us. But we just hit a point. Apps are really challenging. And so what I learned through that experience and coming into this with JennyCo and our development of an app is the understanding much more intimately of how an app needs to feel when somebody is using it and the value they get out of it. So yeah, we are still doing it. We have people ask us occasionally, like, "Hey, is that thing still up? I still want to play those games." And we don't. Who knows? Maybe someday I'll put it back up in the App Store.
Awesome. Thank you for giving us an insight into your journey. How about yourself, Michael?
Thank you. And I'll just start off by saying that it's actually the pot that binds Jenny and I together, the cannabis plant. And, so my background, I'm a physician, but really a background in computer science, and also in genetics and other technologies. I ended up not really practicing, but started a biotech company, and then did another one around physical utilization that I took public about 15 years ago. We did a good public offering, and then I've just been involved with putting. I'm kind of like Jenny. I like to be in the thick of it and like to invent new things and come up with companies that are scalable.
Sure.
And we ended up both of us kind of bonding over this idea of personalization. Can you personalize things, whether it's drugs or cannabis, whatever, and give a talk about using genetics, potentially to personalize cannabis, and we ended up building a test that did that, a saliva test. Looked at your genetics and then basically told you better for sleep. This cannabis is better for sleeping. This one's better for chilling out, whatever. We were able. It was very, very novel. We had a lot of success with it, and then this was 2 or 3 years ago. Background in and her husband, we started talking about, I was out there kind of giving talks about big components of healthcare, which are about a third of it, and about 2/3 of it is your lifestyle, right? You can't change your genetics; those are immutable, but you can do things in your lifestyle to mitigate your potentially genes that are going to be negative for something. Maybe you have a couple genes or whatever that make you gain weight faster than somebody else. Well, if you do this lifestyle intervention, you're able to kind of turn those genes on and off. And so talking, and I would give talks about, the only way to get people to change their lifestyle, since you really can't change your genetics, is by some sort of compensation. So we kind of spooled up thinking about that. Well, maybe we can use, crypto or as a way of compensation. And then maybe we can get, large pharma companies, since they're really interested in grinding through the data, healthcare data. Maybe there's a take on the side of this that, we can offer, real high quality healthcare data to many different companies to have them grind through it. Since grinding through healthcare is a huge market in the United States and in the world, and it just kind of all spiraled up from there. We ended up writing a white paper, and here we are talking to you guys today on the day that we were actually launched on Lattice, which was really fun.
Yeah, a great day for it. I appreciate you guys giving me such a good breakdown of how you've got to where you are now. I think, it sounds like the dawn of, any of the type of project that ends up growing to become something that disrupts and changes a space. It kind of starts with a small idea, and as you explained, Michael, you ended up writing the white paper, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, we could do that, and then we could do this, and now all of a sudden you're here with us, and you're on the launch pad, and it's like, well, this is happening, and this has a tremendous use case moving forward. How did we get here, kind of thing. But I think that what you guys have put together is extremely well thought out, and it just kind of, I feel it's sort of divine timing, in the sense that we're at a stage in our existence as a society where we're taking ownership of the things, of our data has never been more important, because it's never been more in danger or under threat. And I feel we have these sort of like two forces meeting each other, where you have big tech on the centralized side, and also the increase and the rise of decentralized technology, especially with what Constellation have done with the HyperGraph network. It's really providing the vehicle for us to really take ownership of our data, and it's really exciting seeing projects like you guys with the use cases that are coming through. I'm just sort of wowed every other week when I'm reading a new white paper, and especially so when I discovered you guys and sort of really dug down into what it is that you were doing. So it's very, very impressive. So I think what that kind of takes me on to next is just to really sort of, from your perspective and your explanation, what is JennyCo? How would you describe it, and what's the mission?
Well, I would describe, and how we really view this is, there's a big potential outcome here where we all can take better care of ourselves at a very simple level. It doesn't matter how healthy we may think we are. There's always something we can do to modify that, alter that, and really enjoy life even more. And so what we aim to do is to help people be healthier and to become, make some money off of what they're doing that's beneficial to themselves. And to really create a win-win-win scenario where there is nobody that loses. A lot of the business models right now, especially in the Web 2 world, there are definite losers. We as the consumer have been the loser, and we think our benefit is to be able to scroll through Instagram. But meanwhile, someone's making a ton of money off of that activity. So we want to see a future where people are healthier, feel really engaged and in control of that, and are consistently making little changes to optimize themselves. What do you think, Michael?
That's right on the money. I mean, when it comes down to it, I think, for our businesses, we're really a public health type of company. We're going to provide recommendations on a lot of different things for the user, for the individual users, from a personalized standpoint, with the data they give us, and then with the aggregated data, that we're able to use artificial intelligence and grind through and all that other stuff. I just blinked out here. Can you guys still hear me?
Yep, hear you great.
Yep.
Personalizing things for the user, whether it's food or this exercise or this cannabis or this drug or whatever, is kind of the name of the game in all of consumerism. Personalized consumerism. We talk about that a little bit in the white paper. And we have a way of putting the user in charge, basically, of not only of their healthcare, but in charge of their own your health. Owning, you get a little bit of compensation, but you also own your health. And that's kind of the mission statement of the company. That it's your data, you own it. We help you not only monetize it, but we help you get value out of it for yourself.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, like, just going back to what you were saying a second ago, Jenny, about scrolling through Instagram and having a good old time. It goes back to the old saying. It's like, well, if it's free, then you are the product, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing is really free in this life in that kind of way, So, and I'm a massive advocate of Web3 and ownership, which is why I'm, sitting here in this position talking to you guys today, because I want to create a platform where amazing projects like yourselves that are building something that is going to add so much value to society as a whole, level the value exchange and the playing field, give people control of their health data and allow them to, make some money out of it as well. That is what needs to happen, because I'm sure you'll agree, as you're, pushing a company like this forward, that the value exchange right now, when it comes from the business to the consumer, is completely out of whack.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, you go, Michael.
No, I was just gonna, I think the value exchange definitely is out of whack, but we're not anti big company either. I've done a lot of deals with large, huge, companies, and they all, basically mine data. And healthcare data now can mean a lot of different things. It can mean, where you live. It can mean, do you live in a 4-story building or a 2-story building? Is there smog outside? There's all this demographic data besides blood pressure and, your EHR and your genetic test and all that. And it all means, something. And mining it and getting really granular, very high quality data is something a lot of large companies are really interested in, because they can't get high quality data for the most part. That's kind of one thing. And then another thing, we're if you look at the pharma, business just by itself, it's really difficult to get people involved in clinical trials and those, especially for, chronic conditions and what have you. This is a way, our exchange is a way to get the user directly involved with the large company, or vice versa. So there is the option of the large company coming in and saying, look, I need 100 people with arthritis that are this age group, and this weight and this blood pressure and this whatever. Are would this the arthritis DAO, would they be interested in that from JennyCo's point of view?
Yeah.
So it's really, the user gets to interact directly, not only monetization, but it gets to interact directly with the large companies. We're kind of all about that too.
Yeah, cool. So I think it's probably a good time then to sort of lead into a bit about the JennyCo exchange. So, I mean, we've covered a little bit very briefly. You guys have said a few bits and bobs about sort of what it is that it's going to do and the value that it provides. But in your own words, just give the audience and the listeners, a bit about the exchange, how that's going to work, what problems that solves, the value that it brings, and sort of how that marries up, the interests of both the corporation and the regular person.
Yeah. You want to go, Jenny, or I can do it?
You go, and I'll fill in.
Yeah, so the if you look at it from the corporate side, the exchange is basically a way into the data that we're collecting. So it's a portal, and the portal basically would have a lot of functions that a large company would come in and potentially use. They would have access, to their own, what we call an instance of the data that we've collected. Like I mentioned, maybe it is 100 people that have arthritis, or maybe it's 120 people that are on a certain type of birth control that they want to try something else with. So the portal is a way into our collective data that we've been collecting about the user, and also a way to get to de-identified, users, and for their own, potential projects that they want to run. So from a user's perspective, that's from the company's perspective. The user's perspective, the portal, the app, the mobile app, and also the user's website is the most important thing for them, because the mobile app is what's helping collect the data from the user. It's layer 0, LinkedIn layer 0 blockchain, so that means we can get IoT data. That's something that we couldn't do if we were just doing everything on Ethereum or layer 1 or layer 2. That's what's super important for Constellation. So there's a lot of different types of data that we're collecting via the app. Personal data that you give us, electronic healthcare records, all that stuff. So that all gets pushed kind of from the app, into a storage area where the portal that the large companies, would access, would and come in and mine, the types of data that they're interested in. So it's kind of a two-pronged system.
Yeah, and to add into that too, users, as they're contributing their data, and this data can be everything from surveys where we'll just ask questions, or Apple iWatch health data. It can be a myriad of things, different blood tests, you name it. They will have the choice of saying, yes, I would like to make my data available to that portal. I want to make it available because I'd like to receive some compensation for it. Or they can say, no, I don't want my data to be available in the portal, and I just want to use the app to get insights back about my health. So we always leave the person who owns the data 100% in charge of it, and to the point where if they want to delete their profile, literally it's gone absolutely everywhere. So we want to make sure that they feel in control, and that they're the ones that are getting rewarded for what they choose to do.
Yeah, that's great. It's good to hear the explanation from you guys. So I think what would be quite good to cover is, most of the listeners may kind of be thinking to themselves, well, how does sort of uploading my health data and owning it and making money from it, how does that work? So, like, give us a little bit of an explanation around how that kind of process works, in terms of how a user takes ownership of their data, and how they would upload that, and the monetization process, and how they get rewarded for that.
Yeah,
Well,
sure.
right now,
Okay, go ahead.
you go, Michael. No, you go.
No, you go. Okay. Yeah, so the way we envision it, when we have our app in the next couple of months, is that the user would come in and register on our platform, and then we would ask them a certain amount of questions to start with. That's kind of the beginning parts of the data that they would give us. And basic things, do you smoke, do you drink, basic kind of stuff like that. And then over the years and whatever, that amount of data that we collect and ask questions about to the user gets obviously bigger and bigger and bigger. And then the app will have the ability, or the website will have the ability to, let's say you already have a genetic test from one of the providers, 23andMe. If you want to give us that data, you can give us that data. Or you've got a vitamin D test, that's a PDF. You can give us that. You can take a picture of it and give it to us. So there's many different ways for the user to give us, their healthcare records. We will also have the ability to go and get your electronic healthcare record with permission, of course, if you give us, that option. And then, of course, there's the Apple Health stuff, linked into IoT data. All that gets continually kind of updated all the time. And so you, as the user, will have your own little chunk of JennyCo where your data goes and your data stays, and it's secure and it's safe, and it gets added to all the time. And then we have, the ability for the users to be put in groups if they're interested in going in kind of sub DAOs or micro DAOs, whatever you want to call them, and be able to contact other people that are like them in these groups and generate data that way. as well. Along with we have a number of physicians that are interested in being involved in our system, and a lot of physicians have outcome data, which happens to be the most valuable data there is in healthcare. Is outcome data. Did the drug work? Did the surgery work? Whatever. That's of value, and we would be able to collect that. Once a physician and their practice gets involved with us as well. And so the monetization part of that is every time you give us something, we give you something back. You give us an electronic healthcare record, you get some tokens. You give us, I don't know, vitamin D test results, and you get, some tokens. So we're continually in this flywheel of giving you compensation, for the records, that you give us. You'll also be able to buy lab tests on our app. If you need a vitamin D test, you can buy it from us. You get tokens that way. If you need a genetic test, you can buy it from us. We have large laboratories that are partnering with us, to be able to do that. So that whole system will be in place. And telemedicine as well. That we'll have docs involved. That if you need to talk to a doc or a dietitian or whatever, some sort of professional help, we'll have that ability too. And there's a monetization kind of component, for just about everything. And then there's the whole that's just on the user side. On the large company side, grinding through the data, there's a whole nother set of monetization characteristics around how much would the large companies pay for X, Y, or Z. If they want to do an ad campaign to a group of users, do the users also get coupons, as well as tokens? So there is, again, this whole system in place where value gets moved into the system and then just gets parceled out as necessary, when somebody wants to mine it. That makes sense?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I'm just sitting here sort of thinking about how valuable it is for everybody involved. And I think the best projects and the best businesses are the ones that unite the incentives of everybody that comes into contact with that business. They're like, why would somebody not want to get involved in this when you can provide your data and you can make money off of that, as well as receiving personalized health data for you, and also having the option to receive further benefits, like you said, about lab tests and DNA tests. And when you ask the question, why would somebody not do it, and you can't answer it, then I think you've stumbled on a great product, because it's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. Jenny mentioned, you've got control. If you don't want us going out there and potentially shopping your data to some pharma company, you can tell us, no, we don't want. But you still want to be in the system and still get recommendations and get the benefits of being with JennyCo. That's not a problem for us. So again, it's the fundamental user, the individual, mom and pop, the individual person that wants to be involved with us is who we are catering to make sure that everything for that person is set up correctly and is secure, and we're following all the rules. It's this is the only HIPAA compliant blockchain and the only CDPR compliant blockchain. We know all those regulations. Had a lot of experience with that stuff. So a user, we want them to feel like that they're involved with people that really know what they're doing. And
health data is the most personal data that we have. So having ownership of that, taking control of it, and being able to utilize that in a positive way for your own life is, I think, something that everybody would want to have. I mean, it's only going to bring a positive to each individual user who will now have the option to do that. So I think that's a very, very big step forward in terms of data ownership as a whole. Having your health data as your own is extremely valuable.
Yeah, and healthcare data tends to be very, we call it unstructured. it's a lot of doctors' note. It's not digitized. It's a lot of doctors' notes. It's a lot of handwritten stuff. But the more data that we get, out of the 1/3 of all data that's created on a daily basis on this planet is healthcare data. Has some relevance, to healthcare. Well, 1/3, it's a huge amount. And a user in their lifetime will generate, I don't know, anywhere around 12 to 20 terabytes, of healthcare related data. And the good thing about of what we're doing as well to make the recommendations, we're using machine learning and AI, and I kind of come out of that area, and using neural networks and things like that, machine learning, you can't overload it with data. So it actually, the more data that we get, the better and more precise the recommendations get for everybody, because we're continually grinding through it. And pulling out, inferences and things like that, the pieces of data actually are useful for.
Yeah, and that only has a huge net positive outcome for society as a whole, because you organize the data, which allows businesses and corporations to be able to very in a streamlined fashion and very efficiently be able to find the data they need for their research and development, which therefore creates a much faster process in building and creating new healthcare products, which will only benefit the people in the long run. So, I can see from talking to you all the different areas that collating and storing and organizing this healthcare data and providing ownership has many different areas that offer lots of benefit and value, not just to the individual, but to the collective. Awesome. So I think then it'd be a good idea just to sort of touch on sort of a bit on the corporation side. So how does it work how is it going to work for the businesses that want to be involved? Obviously, they want to come on and find the data they're looking for. How does that process work for them in terms of them adopting the platform, getting involved, and going after the data? Is there a process they have to follow? Do they have to meet certain criteria before they can access the exchange? How does that work?
Yeah, a know your customer kind of question. I think we would be a little nervous if somebody in Kiribati, some island someplace, decided that they wanted to mine somebody's data. I think that would be a red flag. We're not going to do that. Although I have a lot of respect for somebody that tries to do that. I think as an example, we're working now with we're getting our laboratories in place, large lab companies, and this is in the United States. Can't quite tell you who it is, but it's the biggest lab company in the United States, and they're intrigued because they not only want to sell potentially their products on our platform, but they mine data, high quality data, if they can get it, even about their own laboratory tests, but also in relation to what other data that the user has, whether it's personalized reported or an electronic healthcare record. They don't have a really good way of getting access to that. So again, our portal would be the place that this lab company would sign up, and we would verify that it's a lab company, who it is. And and they would basically give us information about what they are potentially interested in after they understand what types of data and how much we have that's in our storage area, whether it's on chain or off. So again, I think and the portal again will also have the ability that which we think is important, because we hear this all the time from companies that are trying to do clinical trials, that it's really hard to get people involved in clinical trials. You obviously have to pay them to do that, but it's even hard just to get them to do that. But if you've got a system in place that lets the company potentially interact with the individual user de-identified to start with, but then the user has the ability to also engage directly with the company. Zipping in and out here. That the company would have the ability to to basically kind of round up, if you will, a number of people that they're interested in working with. And we basically take care of the data movement between the company and the user, as well as the compensation movement between the company and the user. Yes, we're kind of in the middle of that.
Okay, great, awesome. Thank you for that explanation, Michael. It makes a lot of sense. So, like, then I think maybe I'm interested to know a little bit more about the JCO token. So obviously I've read through the white paper. I've written a deep dive on you guys myself, so I do have somewhat of an understanding. But for the guys that are listening, with the JCO token, what's the main utility? Give us a breakdown on the utility of the token, how that works for the customer or the end user, and what the corporations and the businesses are able to do with that, in terms of, as you said, Michael, doing the clinical trials and having the pools where people can opt in to provide their data.
Yeah, so the main utility is voting, of course. It's voting in the overall DAO, the JennyCo DAO. I'm sure your listeners know what that is, but it's a decentralized autonomous organization, and everybody basically gets kind of a vote, and that's what the main utility for the token is. But then there's other things that you can use the token to buy things. You can use the token such as a lab test, or a potential telemedicine consult, where there's other things that that for utility with the token that have to do with purchasing services, I guess, is what you would call that. And then there's also the whole staking of the token in certain pools. When a large company comes in, you stake your tokens again in the arthritis pool, and the large company has a certain amount of time to grind through that, and then you basically get potential extra compensation for that staking function. There's a lot of detail in what I just said. There's the large company can pay us in fiat, partially in fiat, and partially use tokens to pay for data access once there's enough tokens out there that are distributed. So there's a lot of ways for commerce to happen using the token just by itself.
Sure. So is there an obligation for on the business side, when they want to come in and sort of mine your data and look at your data, is there an obligation for them to purchase X amount of JCO tokens to get access to the exchange? Or is it more in the sense that they would pay a certain fee to JennyCo for that, to be able to do that?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and it's up for debate on our side how we do that. I think that the short answer to that is it would be encouraged for them to buy a certain amount of tokens. However, large companies aren't necessarily in that business. They're much easier, buying things out of fiat. So if that happens, they come in and they want to do something and they want to pay us in fiat, we would take some of that fiat and convert it into JennyCo tokens anyway. Whether they hold the tokens or we hold them or whatever, that would be the way that we would use that, the large corporate client, so to speak.
Sure. And like I think that's it's that kind of utility that you guys are bringing there is something extremely valuable, because the token is directly tied to the performance of the exchange, and as the exchange becomes more widely adopted, the JCO token becomes more widely used, which gives it more value, which puts positive pressure on the price, which benefits investors, which creates more awareness for the company, which brings in more users, and that kind of value begins to circulate in a loop around to everybody who is involved with JennyCo. And I think that is one of the things I love the most about the Constellation ecosystem is the whole, you know, generative economics and
Yeah.
how, you know, the value exchanges throughout every part of the hypergraph network through positive actions. And it's, you know, obviously you guys have taken that and built something very similar with your token, and having those incentives aligned in terms of the platform on the token is such a positive way to go in terms of adoption and reward.
Absolutely. You know, something else that we think about a lot is that all of us who are in this chat right now understand crypto. You know, we get this. We understand the technology aspect of it. We want to build an app, though, that has a platform where somebody who doesn't understand any of that at least understands the value of what they're doing. And so in that, I feel like what we can do as a company is actually push the Web3 world a lot further, instead of constantly just trying to mine from the same people who understand these very heavy technical terms. How can we make it so easy to use that people are getting the value out of what Web3 has to offer without needing to understand all the complexities of what goes on inside of it?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Sorry, go ahead, Michael.
Before I have to get off, that's a very good point. So we're trying to dumb down the entire crypto space so even I can understand it, right? Basically, I don't want to put some Shay password in some place and have to move a while and all this kind of stuff. And I don't think the general user is kind of intimidated by all that stuff too, right? And so we're trying to make the app and the portal and everything else very simple to understand and very simple to actuate, and without, as Jenny mentioned, without having to understand all the intricacies of HIPAA compliant blockchain and CDPR and security and all that kind of stuff. We want the user, or the token, what you just mentioned, generative economics. That's kind of a big word for most people. We're trying to make it very clear that if you get involved with us, you're gonna make a little bit of money, right? And this is the reason why. And we're also going to help you. From a public health standpoint, we're really going to personalize things, for you.
Yeah, and it's like most people will drive a car, but they won't understand how it works, but they know how to drive it. So that's the same thing. It's like people can use our product. They're going to be using decentralized technology and everything else and being involved in a generatively economic ecosystem. But the only thing they need to understand is how it works very easily for them and what they get from that. And that's what you guys are doing with the app.
I mean, basically the cell phone ends up, being a node, in this whole ecosystem with generative economics and layer zero and all this other, fancy stuff. But it's part of our group, part of the community. I like that word community a lot. And that's what we're trying to, really get across, that you join with us, then you're part of, the JennyCo community.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's very fitting for crypto as a whole, because projects now build communities, which is a new thing, isn't it, for Web3? But it's a very valuable thing. But I know you have to get off, Michael, so we really appreciate you jumping on today and having a chat with us.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Yep. Bye, Jenny. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Take care. Cool. Just you and I now, Jenny.
Yep. Hey.
Awesome. That's really cool. It's been great to hear so far everything about this project. I think just to really sort of unpack, because I think we've covered a lot of information here, and I think we might have a few people that have tuned in a little bit late. So to sort of break it down, what it is that you guys are doing is you're providing the ability for regular people to take control of their healthcare data and monetize it on your app by uploading data or filling out questionnaires and being able to earn rewards for that. And then on the other side of things, you have the business corporate side where they're extremely interested in mining that data, going through that data, finding exactly what they need and using that for research and development or anything else that they want. So what it is that you guys are doing is really aligning the value exchange from both sides whilst helping people also make more conscious, healthy decisions and look after themselves. So not only can they make money, they can have better insights and data to live a better life. And hopefully we also get some great healthcare products from businesses that have been able to find not just all the data, but I think one of the most important things is that it will be up to date data, right? It will always be up to
Mhm.
date because customers are always providing new data. I think that's quite an important part of this.
Oh, it's a huge part of it. Right now, that data exists. Most of us have no idea where our medical records are. And every time we go to a new physician or hospital or emergency clinic, they get a copy of those records. And so our data is floating around in hundreds of different institutions right now, and they're doing whatever they want with it. And so a lot of these groups are taking that data and they can say they're being HIPAA compliant because they're stripping your identifying information from it, but then they're contributing it to data pools, and there's big groups out there that take that data and mash it around and try to find insights, and then they try to sell those insights. But when you think about it, at a certain point, that's old data. So if I was at the hospital at one point in time and I broke my foot and they did blood work or whatever it may be, they may have records, but is that actually who I am today? Like, probably not. If I've changed my diet, if I've changed my exercise or supplements, my blood work will come back different. And so the data sets will age rather rapidly without the actual engagement of the user. So what we're doing here is really novel in terms of how these groups have been buying data. They're used to buying kind of junk data, but they're always looking for better. And so if we as the people can say, yeah, I have my data and I'm willing to make money off of it, and have a more complete view, that I think is going to really work. Like Michael, very early on in the conversation, shared how within our genetics, roughly up to 40% of our health and our overall well-being is determined just by what's in our genetics. And the other 60% is based off of what we do. And that determines what genes flip on and off and how they express themselves. So if somebody can have a complete view of that for an individual or a group of people, it becomes such a rich data set that does allow them to highly customize products, discover what they should be creating that they haven't thought about. Or for in even like clinical study trials, we're hoping that if we can even get a small foothold into clinical study trials, I think we have a better chance of keeping people involved from the start to finish versus the way that it's done right now. So yeah, I feel really strongly about it. I feel like I'm constantly trying to optimize my own personal health. I look at family members, I see different things that they've dealt with. I'm like, I don't really want to end up like that. And so
Yeah.
I've been studying my own genetics and my own, feedback loops of what do I need to do to actually try to optimize this. And so I find great satisfaction in it. We all only have one body,
Yeah.
and I figure, why not take care of it?
100%. And health is wealth, isn't it? It's
Absolutely.
without health, nothing else matters. It doesn't matter how successful you are outside of your health or financially. If you don't take care of your health, then it will force you to have to focus on it. And at that point, it will be probably gone past the point that you would have liked it to have gone to. So I think not only are you guys going to be able to provide people the ability to take ownership of their data, I think what is very likely to happen is that you're going to inspire people to pay more attention to it because it's going to be a lot easier to do that. And I think when you want somebody to do something or to start a new habit, it has to be easy and it has to be beneficial. for them. And if they are going to receive rewards for looking after themselves, then people are a lot more likely to do it. And it's a shame that it is that way. You know, you'd think most people would take care of their health anyway, but unfortunately that isn't the way of the world right now. So I think what you guys are really bringing forward here is dangling a bit of a carrot on a string and being like, hey, you know, give us your information and you'll get some rewards. But what you'll also get is personalized medical data, and you can have a DNA test and you can find out how you're predisposed genetically, health wise. And I think that will really start to gain the interest of a lot of people. And once they begin to journey down that rabbit hole, it's very likely they would continue to take greater care of themselves than they previously did before.
I think so. I think with information, there's a certain power, you know, even just in the very basic way that data is a huge industry right now that we're all kind of cut out of. In a very similar way, on the microcosm, we all have information about ourselves that if we knew, might make changes. You know, if we knew that, like I learned a couple of years ago, I did a bunch of genetic tests with a doctor, and I learned that my whole life, I have never produced a certain master antioxidant that takes metals and converts them into something that I can pass through my body, that I can pee out or breathe out or sweat out. I've never had that. And so when I got tested, I was toxically high with heavy metals. She's like, did you not know this? And I'm like, no. All I had to do was start taking a supplement. All I had to do was take a vitamin that my body doesn't produce. And it created a totally different feeling for me. I had better mental clarity. I wasn't under so much anxiety. But if I didn't know that information, I probably would have just been trying to chase down all my symptoms all the time. So I do feel if we can all be empowered to really know ourselves, know our physical vessels that we're inside of, that we probably would make different decisions. Because then once somebody knows something, you can't unknow it, you know, then shame on me. If I decide to not do that thing that I know is better for me, I have to accept that too. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. But what you guys are bringing forward is what seems to be the best possible platform to give people the tools to take ownership and control of their health in their own lives, and they can then do with that as they please. But putting a bit of money on the table also makes that a little bit more sweet. So I really
absolutely
everybody wants rewards, everybody wants a little bit of extra cash, you know, a bit of passive income that you can make. Well, I guess it's kind of passive income, but it's extra income, and it's for something that's already yours, and there's many other benefits involved in that as well. So
absolutely.
I think it's
nice.
I really I'm a big fan. I think that what you guys are putting together here is going to have a massive impact on many people's lives in different ways, and you can't really ask for much more than that when you're building a project. So I'm sure that you guys have a great sense of pride about what you're building and are really excited to sort of get this out there into the world. Very
much so. Yes.
Cool. So I think that kind of leads us on to the Lattice Gateway Launchpad. So you guys, that started today. Do you want to give us a little bit of information about that and how that's working and how long that's going to run for and what you guys are looking to raise and the steps going forward after that, to give the listeners a bit of an idea about the sort of brief roadmap for you guys from here?
Sure, I'd love to. And then I do have to drop. I have my next thing is in 3 minutes. So we launched on the Lattice Launchpad this morning, and we hit our goal, I believe, within 45 minutes. So we were raising $300,000 US dollars on there. And I actually haven't checked it in the past couple of hours, but I think we're now almost at double that goal. And so it's slated to stay up there for another 6 days. But we're talking about the timing of that. And if, right now Lattice is only available to investors outside of the US. We will be launching on another launch pad that will allow for US investors as well as international. So we're going to be doing a couple of them, but we way overshot our goal, which is wonderful. That's very incredibly validating. And so what comes next for us is we are looking to do our token generation event before the end of this year, as well as the MVP release of our app. We want to time those things together so that people can start using it and generating value through it, as well as, get the token actually minted and out there. So we're really, really excited. It feels like every week goes by with the speed of a day. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit of a like trying to stay on top of everything is crazy, but it's really fun. So
Yeah.
very proud of the Lattice Launchpad app launch today.
Awesome. That's great. Really great to hear everything from yourself. I appreciate you've given us pretty much an hour of your time, Jenny. So I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day. You must be flat out at the moment to come and answer the questions and give the community here a bit more of an insight into what you guys are doing. We do have a load of questions for you, but I appreciate you need to shoot off. So what we'll probably have to do is get you guys to come back on another time, and we'll get through some of these questions and yeah, hear more about your progress and what you guys are getting up to.
We would love to come back if there are questions. Happy to, if anyone's a part of our Telegram community, we can answer questions in there as well. Whatever
Yeah.
works best for you, you just let us know. I'm so
Yeah.
thankful for the time
Yeah.
that you gave us today. So thank you very
Yeah.
much.
No, you're welcome. It was great to have you on and hear everything you guys are doing. I really wish you guys the best of luck, and yeah, keep smashing it, keep doing what you're doing, and hopefully we get to catch up again soon.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Awesome. You too, Jenny. Take
All
care.
right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Awesome. What a great chat. Really appreciate you guys tuning in for that. Apologies we didn't get through any of the questions. Obviously the guys had to shoot off, but just quickly to touch before I go on the Genesis NFT giveaway. I have a snapshot of all of you guys that have tuned in, and when we take the AMA recording and get it uploaded by tomorrow, we'll have that done. We will pick 5 winners at random. We'll take into consideration who obviously interacted with the tweet I made on Twitter the other day, and we will announce the winners when we push out the recording of the AMA. So yeah, thanks so much guys for tuning in. I hope you got some value from that. We'll definitely look to get JennyCo back on again and yeah, get through some of those questions. So apologies we couldn't get to any of those, but obviously the guys are super busy having to launch on Lattice today. So yeah, really appreciate your time, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll hopefully see you back in the DAG DeFi Discord for another AMA very soon. Awesome, guys. Take care. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.